Hello everyone and welcome to Big Rock Moto. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate that. Only two favors as we get started. One, please subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And two, please remember to use my affiliate links whenever you're shopping for parts and gear. I really appreciate that. All right, this is the 2025 Can-Am Canyon Redrock, and it is an adventure trike. Now, I can already hear you typing in the comments and judging this vehicle, bike, I don't know what to call it, and I'm going to confuse those two words throughout this whole review. But remember that there are a lot of people who, for physical reasons or other reasons, simply cannot ride a regular motorcycle. Can-Am, with their three-wheeled vehicles, including the Spider, the Ryker, and now this Canyon, they are trying to bring the enjoyment, the pure joy and the freedom of open-air riding experience to more people who can't ride traditional motorcycles. And based on the number of Spiders that I've seen on my local mountain roads over the past number of years, I think whatever they're doing is working. All right, so we should probably start out like giving you the basics of this vehicle, and we'll get into all the questions and answers, and we'll cover all the performance of this thing and all throughout this video, and we'll show you the specs and features. But here's the basics. The Canyon Redrock costs around $32,000. It's powered by a Rotax 1330cc inline 3-cylinder engine, making 115 horsepower and 96 foot-pounds or 130 Newton meters of torque. The transmission is a 6-speed semi-automatic transmission with a reverse gear. The Canyon Redrock is heavy. It weighs well over 1,000 pounds or 450 kilograms. And you can see right here, it's very wide as well. It's over 63 inches wide at its widest point from the outside of this right front tire to the outside of that left front tire. It also carries about 7 gallons or 27 liters of fuel. Many of the unique shots you see in this video today are only possible because I use Insta360 cameras, and Insta360 happens to be the sponsor of today's video. Right now, Insta360 is running their biggest sale of the year, so check out their website linked below and score some amazing deals on the same cameras I use to make these videos. If you ever wonder how I get third-person shots like this, even when I'm riding by myself with no camera crew, it's made possible by mounting the Insta360 X5 on an invisible selfie stick mounted to the bike using a clamp-on mount. Because it's a 360 camera, I don't worry about the orientation of the camera at all. The X5 is their flagship 360 camera with 8K 60 frames a second shooting, user-replaceable lenses, and in my testing, outperforms competitors from DJI and GoPro. I also used a pair of Ace Pro 2 action cameras to film this video today. The Ace Pro 2 is an 8K AI-powered action camera with amazing image quality and stabilization and better low-light capability than the GoPro Hero 13. It's how I get all my first-person shots, and I even use it to film my B-roll because the image quality is so good. I also love the flip-out selfie screen for those vlog moments. Thanks to Insta360 for sponsoring today's video, and don't miss out on their Black Friday sale. The link will be below. All right, so what makes the Can-Am Canyon Redrock unique? So first of all, let's back up and talk about where this fits sort of in the Can-Am three-wheeler lineup. So they have models called a model called the Ryker, which has either a 600cc or 900cc engine, so smaller engine, less power. That's their most affordable option, and that also comes in a rally version, which has some limited off-road capability. Then you have, I think their most popular one, the Spider. The Spider uses the same 1300cc engine as this vehicle, but it's built for highway, on-road, pavement travel only. It's not built in any way to go off-road. So then the Canyon sort of sits above those other two models, and the Canyon builds on the Spider using the same engine, but adds obviously a lot more off-road capability and extra features as well. Now then, delving down into the Canyon, so the Canyon has 3 different trim levels. You can get a base one, you can get an XT, which adds luggage and a few extra features, and then you can get this bike that I'm looking at here, this vehicle. I can never decide whether to call this a vehicle or a bike. The Redrock. So what the Redrock gives you is it adds some extra features like a backup camera and some extra things like that, which are really cool when you're in reverse. But mainly what it offers you is this KYB Smart Shocks suspension system. The Smart Shocks is a electronic and dynamic suspension system, so it reacts to things as they're happening. Also, you can adjust the settings of the suspension in the menu of the dashboard of the bike, so you can turn it to off-road settings or sport settings or comfort settings or whatever you want. So that's why the Redrock is unique in the Canyon range. I think now might be the best time to give you just a little bit of a walk around and kind of show you some of the features and cool things with the Canyon Redrocks. You can see the rims here and these sort of off-road tread pattern tires. It's got fenders on it to keep the mud from flying up on you and the water. It's got turn signals in these outer fenders, so you get a pretty nice wide lighting signature on this bike, more like a small car or an ATV. You've got the cool front suspension system. You can see here, long travel suspension, almost 10 inches of travel. It's pretty cool. You've got like a skid plate kind of underneath here, but the ground clearance is very, very limited at around 6 inches. It looks like this comes off, and I'm not sure what's under here. Probably some sort of maintenance items. You've got the cool headlights up here, which look kind of unique and interesting. I like that. Coming around here, it's kind of dark on this side because we've got a sunny day. It almost looks like a snowmobile, doesn't it? A little bit, right? I mean, some people have said that. You've got kind of some more splash guards here to prevent the water from and stuff from getting up onto you. You've got these really large kind of off-road foot pegs. The passenger pegs, they fold up and down. And the interesting thing is if you fold these down, actually the stability control system of the vehicle knows that you then have a passenger in it, and it adapts the stability control for better control with a passenger. So that's kind of interesting. So you want to keep them folded up when you're riding by yourself. You've got this brake lever, which you can actually adjust up and down by flipping the lever over. It's very easy to use. I should mention that all of the braking on this vehicle is actually done through the foot brake. There's no handbrake and there's no clutch. So when you first get on this, it's a little bit alarming. It's like, where's my levers? There's no control lever here and there's none there. So it's an automatic clutch, so you shift through the gears with these plus and minus buttons here. It won't upshift for you when you are speeding up, but when you're slowing down, if you get too slow for the gear you're in, it will start to downshift for you. So it does have that ability to downshift automatically, so I'm not sure why they didn't give it upshifting automatic shifting. That's kind of strange, I think. But then there's no clutch lever. So it works okay. There is kind of a delay in the power when it goes through the shifts a little bit. So it's not as good as something like a Honda DCT or something like that. But yeah, getting back to the brakes, it's all done through here and it activates all the brakes in the right proportion. So it's very strong braking and there's a lot of traction here. So you can actually stop this thing really quickly. But it takes a minute to train your brain to get used to only having that foot brake. And it's not the back brake like it would be on a motorcycle. So you have to unlearn in your brain, like, okay, I need all my brakes are right here, and you have to get the confidence to really mash that thing down, and it really brakes more like a car would. Coming down here, the luggage, the seat, which you've got these heated handles here for the passenger. This comes with heated grips. It's got cruise control. It's got the parking brake. Your stuff over here to control your dashboard and your TFT music. It does have Apple CarPlay, but I think Android Auto is being added soon, but I don't think it has that right now. I think it's a software update they need to do. The TFT dash is big. It's this landscape kind of format, and you've got a lot of things you can go in here and do. You can change your ride modes, change your heated grips, your power steering assist level. You can go through there. If you hit this other button here, you can then, if you want to have different displays, right, statistics, you can have the gauges, you can have media control here, so your phone stuff will come up here for communications and music and all that. So it's pretty good. I'm used to this from the Can-Am Canyon the Can-Am Pulse and Origin. It's the same display as those have. I like to have it set to the gauges like that. The windshield is adjustable up and down, so you can crank this. This is really nice. You got a pretty good range of adjustment going up and down here. So I appreciate that. The mirrors, you've got hand guards with the little spoilers on them. You've got the passenger backrest. Coming around back here, you've got the exhaust, the rear lights, which are pretty good, pretty good. They're not as wide as the front because you don't have those two front tires. Pretty big rear mud guard to prevent the mud from splashing up. We do have plenty of mud today. Now, it is belt drive. So if you can see down in here, it's kind of hard to see it. Well, that's the cover, but it's got this protector thing because off-road, if you get a rock in this belt, that could be a really bad day. And I do worry about that. Like just getting a rock stuck in there. I don't really trust belt drive off-road. but that's what you have. It does have some protection though that they do give you with the Canyon versus something like you get on like the Spiders, which are not meant to go off-road. All right, is the Can-Am Canyon fast? Well, it does have the biggest engine in the Can-Am lineup. It's a 1330cc inline triple, 115 horsepower. Pretty powerful, but working against it is that it weighs over 1,000 pounds or 450 kilograms. So let me just give you some demonstration here of some of the acceleration and also the braking. Let's talk about the braking as well. So full throttle. There's 70, and then brakes, maximum brakes. The brakes, oh, the brakes will give you a nosebleed. Like, this thing stops really well because it's got, you know, the traction of a car basically with these big fat tires. So for a heavy vehicle, it stops exceptionally well. I'm really impressed with that. But you have to do all your braking with your rear lever. There's no front brake lever. Showing you the acceleration. It sounds pretty good. Top of first gear is about 55, 70. So yeah, I mean, it gets up to speed very well. It's faster than most cars, but I would say it's compared to a motorcycle, it's not all that fast. Again, I think that's just because of the full power. I think that's just because of the weight of it, right? But yeah, your roll on there, like, you can get going fast enough to get yourself in a lot of trouble very quickly. Pretty powerful, and I like how the 3-cylinder engine sounds. It has a nice growl, a nice sound to it as well. All right, is the Canyon Redrock a comfortable vehicle or bike to ride down the highway? So I have to break this answer into kind of 3 different areas, okay? First, let's talk about the seating position is very upright and comfortable, super comfortable that way. The seat itself is extremely comfortable, right? The actual seat is wide and cushy and supportive, and I really appreciate that. The passenger seat's really good too. The handlebars come up to meet you, so the ergonomics are super relaxed, almost like riding a Goldwing. You've got all this wind protection here in your legs, so on a cold day like today, it's in the 40s in Fahrenheit, in the mid 40s, I've got the wind off my legs. I've got wind protection from this windshield, which you can adjust here as you ride up and down, and it provides extremely good wind deflection. So I have very little wind on my torso or my helmet, and I'm very well protected from the wind. So all of that stuff is good. I've even got hand guards and heated grips to keep my hands warm and comfortable. So from that point of view, it's comfortable, yes. The next point in terms of comfort is the ride quality. The Redrock has the electronic and smart shock suspension, right? So it adapts to the road surface. It also has different settings depending on what you set it to. So I've got it in comfort mode right now, and in comfort mode, the suspension does an amazing job of soaking up potholes and bumps and cracks in the road. It gives you a very smooth, comfortable ride. And you can make it sportier or more comfortable just with clicking a few buttons here in the dashboard. So that's awesome. Now, the third part is a little bit harder to discuss, and it's in terms of actually controlling the vehicle going down the road. Now, you probably can't tell from the video, but if I exaggerate it a little bit here, like any tiny input into the handlebars, it's not like riding a motorcycle, and it's not like driving a car. It's a whole unique sensation from that, and I feel like I'm always drifting in the lane. Like, no matter what I do, I can't seem to go in a perfectly straight line, and I'm always correcting the steering. I think it's just how this tricycle with the 2 wheels in the front, I think it's just a characteristic of how these handle. Now, I will tell you this, you get a lot more used to it the more miles that you put on it. And a part of this is our muscle memory. If you're coming from a motorcycle or even a car, your muscle memory is different, and you tend to fight it more. You get more used to it as you drive it. But for the first few days of riding it, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm always drifting in the lane. I can't go in the middle, you know? So that can be fatiguing and cause not discomfort, but more fatigue, I guess, on a long day, especially as you're getting used to riding this kind of vehicle. You can also adjust the power steering setting. So I've got it on max right now, which gives me a lot of boost. But I can turn that down. Sometimes turning down the power steering assist makes the vehicle a little bit less sensitive, less prone to doing the wandering in the lane. So you can adjust that as well. Okay, next question. Can the Canyon hold a lot of stuff? So yes, you do get all this integrated, or I shouldn't say integrated, but all this additional luggage capacity here with the Canyon, because it comes with the hard bags. So you have around 120 liters total of storage. You can see this top case here is big enough to fit a full face helmet. I've got a big camera bag in here with all my filming equipment for the day, water bottles, whatever, stuff like that. And then you've got these two large side cases as well. I like how they have these little things here so that when you open the side, your stuff doesn't just fall out. So you've got a lot of storage, and it's really easy to use. It just kind of works like you would expect. Now you can also pull all this stuff off if you want to attach soft luggage or different kinds of bags. So they use something called the Link system, LINQ, and you can see that it's got some other like attachment points in some places. A lot of them are used up by the cases that are already on it. But it's just a modular system for adding more accessories and luggage to the vehicle. So it's pretty good. So yes, you can take a lot of stuff very, very easily with you. Plus this back part here, well, this is, I think, oh yeah, that is attached to the trunk. It's got a little backrest here if you want to take a passenger. And look how nice the passenger seat is too on this bike. Plus you have these heated handles with the control right here for the passenger as well. All right, is the Canyon sporty? Is it fun to ride on a mountain road? Does it handle really well? All these questions, right? So when I first picked up this bike, or this vehicle from Can-Am, I thought, oh, this is going to be awesome to ride on the mountain roads because it's got all the grip of like a car, right? With these big, wide, grippy tires. Well, the thing about these three-wheelers, the Canyon and others as well, is that they don't have the characteristics really of driving a car, and they don't really have the characteristics of a bike either. They don't lean into corners, obviously, but they also don't feel the same handling that you get like in a car. So it's really quite different than either one. So unfortunately, the way that the Canyon goes through corners, and as we get up here, we'll get into some more corners for sure on this road, dealing with the construction here today. When you throw the bike through a corner, especially as you try to ride faster, it's a very strange sensation. It's a sensation of you're being almost thrown off to the side like that. Like that's the feeling I get. Like your upper body's being thrown to the side. In a car, you would have bolsters on the seats, and the car just feels different because on this, you've got all of that weight going into that front tire on the outside of the corner, because the back tire doesn't really get the weight transfer because there's only one tire in the back. So what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't feel good going around corners, these three-wheel vehicles. Now the Canyon being the taller off-road one, it might be worse than the Spider and the Riker and other three-wheelers that you may have ridden or looked at, because this is more of an off-road version. But the overall, let me try to go quick. This is a very uncomfortable sensation. Like I'm really having to grip the bars super hard and twist the bars. Like my arms are doing tremendous work to get this around the corner. The vehicle, although it doesn't feel like it's going to tip over or be unstable, it feels just uncomfortable doing it. Now, if you just cruise and ride slow, then it's not so bad. But if you try to ride it sporty or faster, it just doesn't want to do that, because the physics involved here just don't work very well. Give it a little bit of throttle here. You're tempted to like, I'm going to throw it into this corner, but it feels very, very stressful. Like that's about as fast as I can go. about 40 to 45 around these corners. So really your cornering speed is limited to about what a car, actually no, a car can corner faster. A normal car can go around a corner faster than this. People don't know how to drive their cars at the limit because they don't know how to drive, but the physics of it, you can drive a car faster. This is slower than a car through the corners. It's also way slower than a bike. Again, if you go more at a sedate speed, if I go about 35 through this corner and kind of shift my weight a little bit, but that doesn't feel right either. It still feels like I'm scrubbing the tires, and there's a lot of friction involved, and I'm really having to force my arms through here. Now, of course, you can adjust the power steering, you can adjust the suspension. I'm in sport mode, so I'm in the sportier mode for the throttle and for the suspension is firmed up, but that doesn't really change the physics of what's going on in terms of trying to twist this vehicle through these corners. It just is very tiring, very fatiguing, and you cannot go fast at all. At all. Like, it's slower than a car. You'll keep up with the average speed of traffic through on a mountain road because average people drive very slowly in their cars around corners. But if there's a car being driven quickly, there's no way you're going to keep up. It just doesn't have that. This vehicle just can't really do that. Now, in terms of sporty dynamics otherwise, I mean, the transmission does respond. There's kind of that delay. Oh gosh, it just wants to push through all the corners. Just doesn't like being rushed at all. It just wants to go to the outside. It feels very strange. Yeah, it's pretty responsive. I mean, it's got a pretty powerful engine, although it is such a heavy vehicle at over 1,000 pounds or 450 kilograms. But it doesn't like any of this that I'm doing right now. It's very unhappy. I mean, it'll do it, and it's safe because it's got all the it does have the mechanical grip through the tires. So it's not like you're going to necessarily slide out like you would on a bike, but it just does not feel good at all. I don't know how people can really enjoy this on a twisty road, unless you just really slow way down and just cruise, like even slower than a car would be going. So to me, unfortunately, these three-wheelers on a twisty mountain road, they combine the worst things from a car and the worst things from a bike, right? Because in a car, the good thing about a car is you have a protective safety cage around you from the weather, from accidents, having a crash, all that. You don't have that here. And in a car, you would have more traction and more better weight transfer having 4 tires on the ground. On a bike, the advantage of a bike is you can lean through corners, right? But this doesn't have the advantage of a car, nor does it have the advantage of a bike, and it has all the worst from both but not the best from both. So it's really kind of a downer if you look at it that way. All right, maybe the biggest question of this video that I think people are curious about is the Can-Am Canyon Redrock actually off-road capable? So let me kind of give you my thesis or my answers up front a little bit, and then we will go explore and I will demonstrate to you or prove my thesis, right? So we'll try to do this in a scientific way. So a lot of people may want a bike or vehicle like this because they can't ride a traditional motorcycle. They want something that doesn't fall over, that can carry a lot of stuff, and just sort of is something different from a bike, right? And also won't really tip over and be unstable like if you get into some sand or gravel. All that is true, but there are two drawbacks or two main issues with taking the Canyon off-road, and they're a big deal. There's 2 problems with it. The first one is ground clearance. So there's only about 6 inches between the ground and the bottom of the engine or the skid plate here. That's not very much. It doesn't take much of a rock or a rut in the middle of the road for that ground clearance to become a major problem. The other problem with the vehicle is that obviously, okay, so let me back up a second. On a motorcycle, you have one track, right? So you have one track going down the trail. So if there's a rock there, I can just drive the bike and go around it. If there's a rut here, I can drive the bike and go around it. In a car or a Jeep or something like that, or even an ATV or a side-by-side, you have 2 tracks, right? You have one wheel track here and you have one wheel track here. And you know where your differentials and stuff, and you can go over obstacles. On this vehicle, it's really bad because you have 3 different tracks happening. So no matter where you place the vehicle on the trail, and this is a smooth road, we'll take it on the trail, on the actual trail here in a second. I'll show you the problem. On a smooth road, it's not so much of an issue, but on a 2-track, if you have like a high hump in the middle, it's a major problem. If there's obstacles, ruts and rocks, it's a major problem, because no matter what line you choose, it's wrong, because you've got a wheel, you've got a tire here, you've got a tire in the middle, and you have a tire here on the side. So no matter what you do, you're going to hit the thing that you don't want to hit. And if you avoid the obstacle with the 2 front wheels, you've still got this ground clearance issue to get over here, but then you're going to bash it with your back tire, because again, there's no way to really do it right. And that's the problem with the idea of taking a tricycle or a 3-wheeler on off-road trails. Okay, let's actually ride this thing off-road and explain kind of the stuff I'm talking about. But I also want to cover some of the positive aspects of it. There's some positive aspects. The vehicle doesn't fall over. I mean, right, that's the main reason you would want to get one of these things, right? It also, you don't have to worry about hitting a patch of sand and sort of crashing like a lot of people do, because sand can be unstable, gravel, mud, things like that, low traction surfaces. You do have quite a bit of traction from the tires, although you will get stuck because there's only one drive wheel, and if you get stuck, this vehicle weighs almost 1,100 pounds or almost 500 kilograms, and you're not pulling it out of a sand dune or something like that without a tow vehicle to pull you out. So be careful of that. Now, let me show you some good things about it. So I will go into rally mode. So if I go into rally mode there. Okay, rally mode. Yep, there we go. Now, it changes the throttle response and traction control. It turns the traction control down so you can slide the rear end. I'll show you that. It also makes the shocks go into their off-road mode. So the KYB Smart Shocks are actually really impressive on this thing. The suspension has a lot of travel, almost 10 inches or like, what is that, 250 millimeters or 260 mils of travel. A lot of travel, actually. And it's very controlled. That the suspension is pretty impressive. I got to be honest about that. Oops, didn't mean to do that. No, parking brake. It has a parking brake. So as we start to, yeah, it's a little bit loose on this trail. This trail, the river kind of runs down it when it's raining really a lot, which it has been. So it gets pretty sandy. So yeah, the suspension actually absorbs things. When you hit things, it actually does an impressive job of absorbing the terrain. I am really impressed by that. Okay. On an open terrain like this, you can actually really you can slide it around. You can really have a lot of fun. If all you do is just flat dirt roads where they don't have obstacles in them, then this vehicle is pretty great for that. Okay. But let me just kind of show you the problems, though. Is that, remember I talked about the ground clearance is very limited, and you are going to hit everything you don't want to hit because there's no way to go around it. So let's go up this trail. Now, with only 6 inches below me here on ground clearance, I have to be extremely careful not to break the vehicle by smashing it into a rock or other obstacle, because there's just so little clearance. So it's very tiring, it's very exhausting to ride this off-road, because you're constantly trying to find a line down the trail that is not going to result in vehicle damage, right? So like your rear wheel often ends up in very unfortunate places, like right over a rock or right in a rut or a muddy spot you don't want to be in. So it doesn't have again, it's not like riding a motorcycle, and it's not like driving a car or an ATV. It is its own thing, and unfortunately, just like in kind of the mountain road sporty riding section, I think it's got the drawbacks of both and the benefits of neither, because you're always in the wrong place. So if you want to do trails that are just more than a perfectly flat dirt or gravel road, you can do a little bit of it like I'm doing right now, but you've got to keep your speed down, and you've got to be extremely, extremely careful about where you place the tires, all 3 of them, because you're just going to hit stuff no matter what. And you got to be extremely careful not to run into that ground clearance limitation. So about there's some mud there. Whoa, okay, that's a mess. Hope I didn't get my camera lens dirty, because that'll ruin the picture. As the trail gets more rough, I really have to reduce my speed here. And I've got this weird feeling of every bump hitting that rear tire, even though I went around the bump with the two front tires. Sometimes you just have to choose which is the least bad option in terms of line selection, and you got to be super careful. So this is really tiring. This is really not enjoyable, I wouldn't say. Like, it's kind of fun in a novelty way at first because it's different, but once you realize what you're dealing with, that you're constantly having to manage this unwieldy vehicle down the trail, it's not really what I would say fun. It's only fun on those flat dirt gravel surfaces where you're not dealing with obstacles and you're not worried about where all three of your tires are being placed, and you can slide it around, you can have more fun. So like going through this rut here, okay, that's not too bad, but then I'm going to hit my rear tire on that rock. And it's really wide too. It's about 65 inches wide, over almost 5.5 feet between these two front tires. Whoa, this is a really tricky little spot because I'm worried about high centering there. I gotta try to find if I put my two front tires on the high ground, my rear tire ends up in the middle of the rut, and that's very strange. So typically on a motorcycle I'd be flying through here at 30 to 40 miles an hour, right, somewhere around that. And I'm going 8 miles an hour on this, just to give you some perspective on that. So I think we've kind of beat this to death in terms of the downsides. Let's go ride it a little bit more somewhere else. All right, you may wonder about sand, right? That's the usual sand testing area that I have. So the Canyon, because it's got that big car tire in the back and it's got kind of an off-road tread pattern, it does have some ability to go in sand. But I'm not willing to do it on this test by myself, out here by myself. Now, if I had somebody in a Jeep with me to pull me out, I would do this. But the problem is when you hit, and I've tested a little bit in the sand, kind of on the sides of the road, if you hit like this is probably okay because it's got some moisture in it. But if you hit a drier patch or a really soft, deeper part of the sand and you dig in and get stuck, if you get the vehicle stuck, it's not like you can just in your truck or something, I turn on four-wheel drive or turn on the locker. And on a motorcycle you can tip it over and like get out. But on that vehicle, if you get stuck, it's 1,100 pounds. And how are you going to get out? Like, so if you're by yourself and you don't have another vehicle with you to recover you with a winch or a tow line, do not do it, because you can't recover it. There's no way to get out of a bad situation. You can't pull 1,100 pounds, with your body through the sand to get it out unstuck. So while it does have some capability, and if you keep your speed up and slide around, it's a lot of fun, but you got to be super careful not to dig in and get it buried. Now, here's another problem for the Canyon, and it kind of goes along with having the 3 tracks, but this is like what you call like a 2-track road, and a lot of you, depending on where you are in the world, you're going to have a lot of roads like this where you've got a tire track on each side and you have a raised portion in the middle. Well, if this is very tall at all, you can see the problem. Like I've got about 2 inches left of ground clearance just having my tires there, because when you put the front 2 tires on the sides, which you kind of have to do because otherwise it's really awkward, and where's your rear tire going to go, then you end up with this going under the vehicle. With only 6 inches of ground clearance, you end up scraping on any rocks. If there's any rock or bushes sticking out of the center mound in the trail, you're going to hit them. So let me kind of show you on this trail how this looks. So like I gotta be super careful because I can hear the bushes going under the front of the engine or the front of the skid plate. And if this middle part gets taller, or if my front wheels drop down, like I can hear it scraping already, like right here. So you can't really take this vehicle on a 2-track road, this kind of 2-track with that raised center portion, which is all over the world and lots of different places that you might want to ride this bike. That's a real problem for it. It's a real issue for this vehicle, not being able to really do 2-track. I haven't been up here in a while. Let's see. I mean, to some degree, it's kind of, whoa, I scraped there. It's kind of fun to explore, but see, That's bad. I don't know about this one. See, I feel like, see, I might have to put my front tires like up. Yeah, so, but then my rear tire's going in the middle of the ditch into the rut. So that's kind of awkward, but I was able to negotiate that. So yeah, 2-track road is a real issue for a vehicle like this. All right, so who is the target buyer? Who is the Canyon Redrock for? So I think it goes along the lines of who is the Can-Am Spyder for? So Can-Am has brought out these 3-wheeled vehicles for a very simple reason, right? And it sounds oversimplified to say it, but when you come to a stop, this vehicle doesn't fall over. It doesn't need to be balanced like a traditional motorcycle. It's got handlebars, it's got an open air riding experience. I would say it's closer to riding a motorcycle than it is to driving a car enclosed with a windshield and doors and a safety cage and all that kind of stuff. So what a vehicle like this does is it bridges the gap between a car and a motorcycle and gives people with physical disabilities or limitations, or maybe they just don't want to ride a 2-wheeled motorcycle, the experience to have this open air, joyful experience sort of riding a bike, even though the purists will say that it's not a bike, and technically that's true, but it just brings riding, the open air experience of getting out here to more people, and I think that's a good thing. Now, who is the Canyon Redrock specifically for? It's for somebody who wants to be a little bit more adventurous with their 3-wheeler. So instead of just sticking to highways, you want to do some dirt and gravel roads. You got to keep in mind the off-road limitations that I've talked about throughout this video, but I am here. Like, I even got to this filming location. It can do it. It just has to be careful with the line selection and things like that. So that's who I think this is for. All right, it's time for some final thoughts on the Can-Am Canyon Redrock. So first of all, I just want to reiterate my thanks to Insta360 for sponsoring today's video. Now, going back to what I said at the beginning of this film, there are a lot of people who, for various reasons, just can't ride or don't want to ride a normal motorcycle, and that's okay. There's a lot of purists out there in the motorcycle world. I mean, I think purist is a nice way to say it. I think sadly there's a lot of ego and a lot of judgment and a lot of negative, sort of things out there in the motorcycle world, to be quite honest with you. People judging others and how they choose to enjoy the different vehicles that they buy with their hard-earned money. For those who would say that this isn't a real bike and you're not a real rider, I would say to that, who cares? And if you're the owner of one of these, either a current owner or a prospective owner, just forget about what other small-minded, limited-thinking people are saying. Because if somebody can't understand why you would choose a different recreational vehicle, then they're just very close-minded. So I don't care if you want to call it a bike or a trike or an ATV or a vehicle, or you want to judge it or anything like that. I think it's better to have an open mind and to respect the choices of others. So let's be more inclusive. We're all out here having an open air riding experience. And I think that's really, really great that Can-Am has brought a more adventurous 3-wheel vehicle to give more people this kind of experience. I think it's awesome. Now, do I personally really enjoy riding this? Not very much. I mean, the novelty wore off pretty fast. And because I'm more of a traditional motorcyclist and I enjoy that more, I would not personally buy one of these, at least not at this point in my life. But that does not mean that I don't appreciate all the cool and interesting and valuable things about it. And it doesn't mean that I wouldn't respect somebody who would choose this as their adventure vehicle. I think it's awesome. More power to you. All right. Well, I think that just about does it for this video. If you want to support Big Rock Moto, there's ways to do that down below. Thank you so much for watching. Ride safe, and I'll see you out there.